Next up, folks, the coup is on. The coup is on. And look who's wearing red today. We had a big discussion about red. Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan in the back room were like, you're making red rock. And today is the Heart Day. Is that right? Is it Women's Health?
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Women's Heart Health.
Heart Health Day. So with your heart, how is your heart holding up? I mean,
Look, so here, whenever anybody asks me, how are you doing? I try to answer excellent, because in the grand scheme of things, all of my family members are alive. I'm alive. God woke me up this morning. It could be a lot worse. And then when I remember that I almost died in childbirth, both my daughter and I, that puts everything in perspective. So my number one piece of advice for everybody today is find your excellent and don't let anybody take it away from you. Couple other mantras for the year before I kind of jump into the update, because it's going to be rapid fire.
Yeah.
Try to focus on what you can control and let go of the rest. You cannot control everything. You can't impact everything. And if you try, you're going to kill yourself or drive yourself crazy. That is easier said than done, I know. But if you constantly, every morning, remind yourself, focus on what you can control and let somebody else handle the rest, it'll help. And this is an all hands on deck moment. And those are kind of the mantras that I have told my team, and how we are approaching every day, because this is a coup.
Yeah.
This is a coup, and it is not a coup by Donald Trump. It is a coup by Russ Vought and Elon Musk. Plain and simple. I'm not even sure Donald Trump knows half of the things that he signed.
No, he's worried about something else. I want to say that when I was down last Sunday to listen to the Virginia's List event, and you spoke, your words were really impactful. I want to thank you just for being the leader you are. Before we dig really into it, I think what we found this week, rising up to be right behind you with the activists, I think that has really been helpful to show really the support of you. But in that moment in the room, you told us, put our mask on first, like in an airplane, take care of ourselves first, and focus on what you can control. I took that back to my team, your top 3 things, because I was like, shit, I need that too, because you just want to focus everywhere and control what you can control. So I just want to say thank you for everything. And let's get into it, because this is just so impactful. I have neighbors that have lost their jobs. We have kids that my kids went to school with, the FBI work. They're doing intelligence against Russian oligarchs, wiped out by Pam Bondi. Now we have, like you just said, what's going on. So why don't you start where you think it's most helpful, and just give us what's going on. What is happening?
First, so Donald Trump issued over 100 executive decisions on day one, which was not quite 3 weeks ago. And so everybody understand this: flood the zone, fire hose, whatever analogy you want to use. That was an intentional strategy to overwhelm and exhaust us. And we really need to resist the urge to react to everything and be very strategic. And so for each member of Congress, we have a broad House Democratic caucus. I can really only speak a little bit for the House and a little bit for the Senate, but we have a strategy that's a multi-pronged attack. Some of you may have seen Leader Hakeem Jeffries posted his sort of 10-point strategy. Some of it involves us and some of it does not. The House, only the Speaker of the House has standing to sue on behalf of Congress. And so for many of these actions that overstep presidential authority and infringe on congressional authority, we are not in a position to challenge that in the courts. We have to work with allies. So for example, when the funding freeze happened, we very quickly mobilized with the 22 Democratic state attorneys general for them to file a lawsuit, which then led a federal court to strike down that funding freeze. And so just know, even if you don't see always, and you're not going to see all actions that we're taking, that doesn't mean they're not happening. So what are the actions that we're taking? We're trying to use our committee structure to prioritize what members are doing what. And based on what's in our district. I'll speak for me personally. Where we have primarily put our focus is the federal workforce because of the impact on Virginia. The national security issues and related, veterans because of the importance to Virginia. I am now on the Energy and Commerce Committee, which deals with sort of healthcare, all things energy related. So the assault on our national healthcare system, which we know is going to go after Medicaid, et cetera, those are areas where I'm focused. And then, there are a lot of other issues that are priorities for me. There are a lot of other actions that are priorities for me, but I and my team don't have the bandwidth to do that. So every member of Congress is sort of picking those 3 or 4 areas where they're going to laser focus in. And sort of that's the only way we can handle this sort of all hands on deck approach. Some of what we're doing is legislatively. So for example, in response to Musk and his minions having unfettered access to data at the Treasury Department, we have filed the Taxpayer Data Protection Act to try to address that. We've, Don Beyer and Susan Bonamici just filed another bill trying to deal with presidential authority on when he can enact tariffs. So where we can file legislation in response, we're doing it. But remember, we're the minority party.
Right.
We need 3 Republicans in the House to join us to do anything. And the Senate needs Republicans to join them to do anything. So while we know my office has gotten hundreds of calls a day, and that's great, keep them coming. But those of you that live in Republican districts, or those of you who have friends that live in Republican districts, they need to feel the pressure, because we need 3 of them to sign on to a discharge petition to get these bills to the floor. They're not going through committee. They're not coming out of committee. And so put the pressure on the Republican members to make sure they know how upset you are. Democrats know we're just as upset and we're acting, but we need them to grow a spine and act. And the only way they will grow a spine is if they understand there's electoral pressure, that if they don't, there are going to be consequences.
A quick question about that. So do you have an inkling of a few that are sort of somewhere that you feel do have a heart? Or in Virginia, I mean, we do have, obviously some of these Congress people took place in the January 6th insurrection, right? So we have, that's a hard issue, because I'm wondering, when you see the whole, everybody installed is an election denier. I mean, it's just really kind of crazy. Is there any hope that you see if any of those Congress, and on the Senate side, I was really surprised by Lisa Murkowski's vote. And I'm thinking, is it that bad? They're that scared? And what the hell are they trying to save? Because if this goes the way it is, there's nothing to like recover from anyway. So no one's willing just to go out on the chopping block at this point.
I can't speak for them.
Right.
I can't control what they think.
Right.
What I'm saying is, some of you have the control. You are their constituents, or people who can flood their office and demand action.
Okay.
And they may not vote, but the only reason the funding freeze, they start to backtrack when they see public opinion swaying against them. And we're not going to win every battle.
Right.
But we got to try. And so, rather than trying to speculate who can we get,
just go at it.
Members listen to people who live in their district. So if you live in a Republican district, or people who do, have them call their member, period. Don't worry about anything else.
No. So let's talk about the Department of Education. I saw today the flurry at the doors trying to get inside there, and people being denied. We saw the police standing, making a show of force. So what is going on the ground that you're seeing that people should know about, or maybe that they're trying to call attention to? Is that another strategy to sort of shine a light on what's happening?
The biggest thing that we can do is, yes, shine a light on what's happening, and federal employees are afraid to speak out. And anyone who receives federal funding is afraid to speak out. So what we're trying to do is, whether it's at USAID, the Department of Education, yesterday I was at the, HHS, is we have to show up to say, like, what are you doing? And when we get rebuffed, that's news. So we are trying, basically through legislation, through letters to the Trump administration. I've written several letters already, or joined on several letters, on the record, calling them out or trying to get answers to questions. And then when they stonewall us, that creates a record that then can be used in a court case somewhere down the road. We've been talking with our allied partners. This week, Jerry Connolly and Steny Hoyer hosted a roundtable with various organizations that represent the federal workforce to talk about their litigation strategy and what we can do to support federal workers. And so that's what we're doing. But I think more importantly, what I'm hearing is you all need to know what you can do. And so, number one, again, I go back to making sure Republican members are feeling the pressure. So whether that's protest, whether that's calls into their office, whether that's email, and calls, frankly, are a little bit more effective because the calls into the office bog down the staff. And while they see and get a number of the emails, you don't feel them quite as much as you do phone calls. So calls into Republican offices to tell them your concerns. And as you see on the ground in your community, how these different things impact the community, letting us know. So for example, yesterday, I met with a group from community health centers who said, we still can't access our funding, even though the funding freeze was blocked by a federal court. And now we're going to have to close, 3 of our centers. So where you are in an organization or know people who are impacted by what the federal government's doing, whether it's farmers who are worried about the tariffs, whether it's you're starting to see egg prices go up again because avian flu means whole flocks of chickens are being slaughtered and CDC is not doing anything about it. Sharing that information, but also I got to tell you, there's so much misinformation that is being spread. When you see something on social media, before you share it, verify it. Because there have been instances where and be strategic about what you share. So perfect example, I was flooded with people reaching in saying, have you noticed that all the federal government websites have a flag that has 9 stars in the top? Isn't that the Confederate flag? Well, number one, no, it's not the Confederate flag. Number two, there are reasons behind that. And number three, should our priority right now be on the fact that there's what the flag looks like on websites, or should our focus be on the trauma that's being inflicted on the federal workforce? So please pick your battles in a way that are going to really have an impact, but check the facts before you share something.
Yeah, it is. And watching over here, I just happened to be watching Fox News the other day, and I was like, the amount of misinformation that comes and the stories going through there, it's incredible to witness. Before you leave, I want to point something out because I am concerned about it when I think about our election in Virginia, and I think about our strategy as Democrats, as we know we have an opportunity, hopefully, to win back the House. The SAVE Act that's coming up this week, it feels like a lot of people don't know about it, even some of my activist friends. And this seems to me to be the strategy to make sure we kind of never vote again. So what are you guys thinking of when you see the SAVE Act passing possibly, or that will just really change even how maybe we vote in Virginia on this election? So I'm a little worried trying to get ahead of the game. What is your plan on the SAVE Act?
Well, the SAVE Act is not new. They tried to attach it to a funding bill last year, and really it's spreading the word. And again, we need 3 Republicans to vote no.
So that could pass if they don't vote no.
It could pass. But for people that don't know, what the SAVE Act does is it would require in every election, and there's a big question whether, Congress can only do so much with state elections unless it's to enforce the Civil Rights Act. But what they want to do is require basically a government issued ID to be able to vote. Now, the version of the SAVE Act that I saw, I haven't read the newest one, but I assume it hasn't changed, Most of the forms of ID that would count cost money. Well, that's a poll tax, and poll tax is illegal under the one of the amendments. I can't remember which one. And so again, that is another example. If this bill passes, there will be a litigation strategy. But also, let me point out one more very important thing, because we're not going to sue on everything, because they want lawsuits to go to the Supreme Court, where they have justices that are very likely to rule in their favor and completely rewrite or gut law or weaponize laws that we have relied on. So they want a Supreme Court case, 14th Amendment, right, citizenship. And so we have to be very careful what we file and what we don't. Now, a poll tax is a poll tax. That's pretty clear. So I'm pretty sure there'll be lawsuits around that. But right now, it is putting that pressure on Republicans to vote against all this stuff.
Right.
Raise awareness about what all of this stuff does. And you know, it is really an all hands on deck moment, and we're doing our part as members of Congress, but we can't do it alone. It's, you know, we're partnering with state governments, we're partnering with activists, we're partnering with allied organizations on each of these different issues. And I'm going to be honest, like, things are happening so rapidly that sometimes I don't even have time to post on social media. But if you want real-time updates about what's happening, make sure you are following members of Congress on the official side. Everything I have time, or my staff has time to post, and I have like 3 comms people, is on our official side at Rep McClellan. Except Blue Sky is different, but Courtney will put it all in there, or you can go to my website at mcclellan.house.gov. But make sure you are following and amplifying what we are doing on our official pages. Because under the rules, we got to keep official and unofficial separate. And we don't have, it's really hard to keep both of them up to date.
Yes. Well, I want to say that when I wrote, we're going to wrap up, and I'm so grateful you can be here today. I love what you're doing today. I think today is the deadline, but you're sending Valentines to veterans. It's just a beautiful thing that you have taken on, and I love that. And also about voting and today's Black History. Vanell, you missed that. We opened it up with a really great moment about Black history, but the poll tax reminded me of your family story. And that's why the SAVE Act, needing a birth certificate and a passport and not allowing any voter registration through portals or online, this will change how we do things in Virginia. So my mind is sort of looking ahead of that a little bit. But real quick, why don't you just do the quick story about your family since today's Black History, and also poll tax?
Sure. So I'll do poll tax, and so my great-grandfather had to pass a literacy test and find 3 white men to vouch for him to be able to register to vote in the 1890s, but he did it. On January, you know, many of you know, my father passed away in January of 2014, and I inherited his Bible. So every January I will look through it. And on January 5th, 2020, which was the night that Georgia elected the first Black man to the Senate, I was thinking of my dad, and I looked through the Bible, and I found an envelope that I had never noticed before inside of it. And when I opened it, it was his poll tax receipt from the first time he registered to vote. And I went to bed very hopeful for this country to say, well, look how far we've come. Tomorrow, the first Black man is going to be sworn in from Georgia. The first Black woman vice president is going to be certified. And then what happened? The next day, we had people try to take by force what they couldn't win in the ballot box. And I'm going to end with this. Every time in American history we make progress towards making the ideals upon which this country was founded true, and every time in this country that marginalized communities, especially Black people, gain social, political, and economic power, there is a backlash. That backlash involves 3 things: voter suppression, violence, and propaganda. We are in the backlash now. We are in the backlash of all backlashes. But don't get dispirited, because we are fighting that backlash from a position of more power than our ancestors ever dreamed. And so when you get tired, because you will, when you get angry, when you are on the verge of, I don't know what to do, remember that power. And remember what John Lewis said, democracy is a state that requires every generation to do its part to build the beloved community. And we cannot give up. And when we succeed, we can't become complacent because the backlash always comes. But together we are in this fight against the backlash. And I'm so proud to be in this fight with each and every one of you watching this right now.